Isn't it extraordinary how you stand up and everybody goes quiet? What a sense of extraordinary power, but not really. But if you would just like to take your seats, please, we'll get the proceedings underway. We may be joined by one or two others as the process goes on, the afternoon goes on. First of all, welcome. Welcome, honoured guests. Here we go, classes. Councillor William Shaw, of course, better known to all of us here as Billy. Canon Richard Davis and Professor Andrew Campbell, MBE, who will be having their say as the more afternoon drags on. We're also, it drags on, yes. That's a bit unfair, isn't it? We're also very lucky. Well, I suppose the thing is, to be sat there faced by this number of people is demonstrative of just how supportive the town is and people are of this sort of activity, this sort of project that goes on a regular basis in one way or another in and around Fishguard and Goodwick. So welcome to everybody. Some of the noted contributors and people who have been involved, Simon Hancock somewhere from archaeology, Luke Jenkins, I beg your pardon. Simon from, as chair, is Simon here? No, beg your pardon, Simon's not managed to arrive. Alana from Ysgol and Michelle from, I've met Michelle, so I know she's here. There's a demonstration there of a willingness for the educational industry or business to get involved with this sort of activity as well. So it's lovely to see people from those sorts of backgrounds as well. And also, and I'm not quite sure because I haven't necessarily got your name, the business, people who have supported this development of this project by offering and paying for the location of the plaques that are around the town now to provide the trail, the heritage trail that has been put in place. As for me, I've not really got a lot to say. My name's Andy Linforth. I'm the chair of North Pembrokeshire Trade and Tourism, Chamber of Trade. And I just really wanted to tell you a little bit about the inspiration and how we got to be where we are today. Every idea or every project starts with a concept, an idea, and we have, to blame for that, Andrew Harris, who's joined us here as well today. He's asked me not to tell him to stand up and take a bow. But Andrew Harris, who about 10, 12 months ago, came up with the idea of producing a plaque, a heritage trail around the towns. So thank you, Andrew, for getting us ball rolling. But as always, these events don't just come from one person. They don't happen as a result of one person's activities. Andrew got the thing rolling, and then with much research and help from all sorts of collaborations with, for example, Ein Hannes, who are here with Jim and Tom, I can see, and Hannes Abergwine, thank you for your displays. Without their help, we wouldn't be anything like us in the position that we're in today. And undoubtedly there is more work that we need to do to fine-tune the programme into its definitive position. And also thank you personally to Hedith and to Jim and to Hilary from those two organisations, Ein Hannes and Hannes Abergwine, whose valuable contribution has been made. Others that were engaged in the research and involved in it, the National Library of Wales was used as reference, the Fishguard Historic Environmental Records were used, the Pembrokeshire County Council Historical Records, and a whole raft of organisations have in one way or another contributed to the content of this particular activity. And many more, undoubtedly. And without the, as I said earlier on, the contributions by locals and local societies, local involvement, we wouldn't be where we are today. But you're all very welcome. So thank you all for your contributions. Enough from me. Far more important people in the room to give a few words. I'd like to invite Billy Shaw, Councillor William Shaw, Billy, as he's known obviously to everybody, to say a few opening words if you would. Thank you. Thank you. So,
a few weeks ago, when it wasn't raining or windy and the sun came out, I decided I would take this because it'd given me this lovely brochure showing you where everything is. So I thought I would be the first person to go around all of the plaques. The first two I went to up in Goodwick, New Hill Villa, I couldn't find them, and I thought, where have they gone? So I messaged Andy and he says, they're there. So that day I just said, right then, I'll stop now. So my plan will be to go around them all and have a picture of each one, but not until they're up. So when I heard about this, I will admit, and I hold my hand up, I was slightly sceptical of it. Okay? But I think, after having a look at the few ones that we've got here, and the concept, and this now for the tourists, I think it's a very good idea. It will add something extra to the town. Yeah? It's little ideas like this, they all add up for Fishguard and Goodwick, which give it that little bit of an extra appeal. So I would like to say, my apologies for being sceptical to start with, but that's me being Scottish. So thank you very much for this, and this I think will add to the town as well. It's just by the rugby club, but it's got the mural on the side. All these little things all add up. So there's enough from me. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Billy. And I'll join you on the walk when I put that on my house.
You do know there's a lot of pubs on the way.
Yeah, indeed, yeah. Perhaps we should cycle. That would be fun. Without further ado, can I welcome and ask Canon Richard Davis to give us a little story, potted history.
Thank you very much. Now there is a danger when a vicar stands up, that you'll be standing on his feet for a long time. But you're in luck today. I've already given the sermon after Ash Wednesday service this morning. Now when one considers the history of Fishguard, people often labour under two misconceptions. Firstly, there is a mistaken view that Fishguard is very much a junior partner compared to some of the neighbouring towns, such as Newport, Cardigan, Haverfordwest and Pembroke, let alone the cathedral city of St David's. But don't be fooled, Fishguard too has a long history. Secondly, many people think that the only event of note that happened in Fishguard is the French invasion of 1797. Now don't get me wrong, the event, though slightly farcical, does have a unique place in British history. But it is by no means the only historical event that has happened in the town and the area. That is why the launch of this heritage trail is so important to both local resident and visitor alike. It will help the former to appreciate what a special little corner of the kingdom this is, whilst for the visitor, the trail will undoubtedly enhance their experience of visiting the twin towns. Now, when Andrew invited me to say a few words today, I was glad to accept his invitation, and when I thought what I should speak about, I decided to home in on the year 1910. Now, the year 1910 was a busy one in Fishguard. Firstly, not only were there all the ceremonies connected with the death of King Edward VII in the May of that year, but there were other notable events, including, firstly, the laying of the foundation stone of the new St. Peter's Church in Goodwick, probably the last such event in Edwardian Britain, as on that very same night the king died. Secondly, I could have honed in on the visit of the then Prime Minister, H.H. Asquith, accompanied by the First Lord of the Admiralty in the June of 1910. But the event I decided to look at was perhaps, as far as Fishguard is concerned, the wedding of the century. So who were the participating parties? Well, the bride was Miss Anita Williams of Cefn-y-Dre, from a very distinguished local family, and she had excelled in various fields, as had the family. She herself was a nurse and an absolute paragon of virtue, organist in Herman Chapel, a Sunday school teacher in the chapel, and the leader of the Band of Hope. And then there was the groom, William George, a Carnarvonshire solicitor who lived in Cricketh and was very prominent in the life of his county. But far more importantly, his brother was David Lloyd George, MP for Carnarvon Boroughs, and at the time of the wedding, he was the Chancellor of the Exchequer. We know he would become British Prime Minister during World War I, and is often called the man who won the war. Undoubtedly, the most famous Welshman in the world at the time, and interestingly enough, his father is buried in Jordeston Church. When it was known that he was to be attending, there was great excitement in the town. At last the great day dawned. After huge preparations had been made at Herman Chapel, the town in general, and at Cefn-y-Dre, where the wedding breakfast was held, and the home of Mr. Walter Williams, the bride's brother. Let the words of the Pembrokeshire Herald paint the picture for your imaginations to ponder on. Under the headings Fishguard Rejoicings, it says, Fishguard was early astir. From Cefn-y-Dre to the town, a distance of nearly 2 miles, bunting was displayed from every cottage and homestead. The countryside was bathed in sunlight, and to the west, the glistening waters of the bay reflected the azure blue and fleecy clouds of an ideal summer day. Now this was in 1910, not 2026. Motors and other vehicles conveying invited guests rattled into the little hilltop borough from every direction, and wedding favours were profusely displayed. The scene was one of colour and animation, with a touch of the quaint and picturesque added by the mingling of modern Parisian costumes with the homely Welsh hats of the peasant women who were present in large numbers. The only unhappy note was that David Lloyd George, due to parliamentary business, could not be present for the actual ceremony. Despite this, hundreds turned up to witness the event in this beautifully decorated chapel. The decision had been taken that once room had been left for the guests and the choir, then the remainder of the seats would be thrown open to the public. A good hour and a half before, the chapel started filling, and it was soon packed. The windows were opened and people sat on the sills, and it is estimated that the best part of 1,000 people was present, let alone those assembled outside. The service was conducted by the Reverend Richard Lloyd, uncle of the groom, and the Reverend Dan Davis, the minister of Herman, who had composed a special hymn for the occasion. With the conclusion of the proceedings, the happy couple emerged to a densely packed high street and square, en route for Cefn-y-Dre for the wedding breakfast. As the County Echo commented, en route to Cefn-y-Dre, they encountered many improvised decorations, the very nature of whose constitution afforded an eloquently pathetic tribute to the popularity of the bride. At Cefnydre, a spacious marquee had been erected to host a great repast. If this was not enough, the joy of all concerned was made complete by the news that David Lloyd George had caught the Irish Express from Paddington, arriving in Fishguard by the middle of the afternoon. He would return by the same train in just over an hour, giving the Chancellor just enough time to witness the cake cutting and making a witty speech. His arrival at Cefnydre was a little delayed, as the great crowd on the square demanded he said a few words before proceeding to Cefnydre. All too soon, the hour went, and Chancellor and the bride and groom departed together from the harbour on the returning Irish Express, the Chancellor to parliamentary duties in London, and the newlyweds to start a honeymoon on the continent. There certainly was no time to examine in detail the hundreds of presents the couple received. I'll just give you a little example. Bridegroom to bride, diamond and pearl pendant and chain. Bride to bridegroom, dressing case. Bride's mother, household linen and antique gold bracelet. In addition to cheques, they seem to have received a great deal of silver items, especially for the dining table. Other gifts included a pair of fancy buttons, a hand-worked tea cloth. The Sunday school at Cricket gave a brass coal scuttle. There were 10 volumes of poetry by the Reverend J. Hugh Edwards, a 200-year-old brown lustre jug, the gift of Mrs. Evans of Glanaylon, if it still survives, it's now 300 years old, and from the Llyn and Efionydd Temperance Association, a carved oak bookcase. 2 footnotes to end. The couple, William and Anita, had twins, 2 boys, and Anita brought them to Cefnydre to show her family. A maid took them into the town where there was illness. Anita left to go home with 1 boy and 1 coffin. The remaining boy became W.R.P. George, who was Archdruid of Wales at one point. Secondly, Anita died in 1943, William in 1967, he just short of his 102nd birthday. He was still working at the age of 101, by which time he had served for 85 years as a solicitor, probably a record. He also served for 60 years as member of Carnarvonshire County Council. By the 1960s, when he was almost 102, I wonder how strong were his memories of his marriage day back here in Fishguard. And for the people who saw it, who must have been still alive in 67, that was probably the wedding of the century in this town. Thank you very much.
And finally, Andrew, Professor Andrew Campbell, MBE, if I could ask you to please make your official address.
Pronounced Powell. It's a great pleasure to be here this afternoon. Thank you very much. I feel greatly honoured and I'm still a bit shocked to be asked to do this ceremony. But I gave it some thought and then I've decided to take it in my stride. It is a walking trail after all. So continuing on that theme of puns, because I particularly like puns, I have to say that I consider this to be a tremendous feat. So well done, Andrew. Huge amount of work and great acknowledgement is due for your inspiration and for everything that you've done to make this happen. One always needs a champion. Grateful thanks to the Chamber, to Andy and the team, the Town Council, to Ian Hannes and to the Town Council as well. So everyone deserves a huge amount of praise. The project called Trails, okay, I hope you're keeping up with all these the very rich history and culture that has happened in this area that has shaped our community and continues to shape it. I'm looking at Tom there, we had an extremely interesting talk about the Sea Empress last week in the Theatre Wine, and out of that there were some very interesting things. I was particularly taken with the fact that the crew on the Sea Empress were airlifted off to the Fishguard Bay Hotel, where they stayed for the duration of that particular disaster. So our history is continually evolving. And I guess this trail, well, I don't guess, this trail isn't a static project. It's a project that will evolve and people can add to. So that's good. That's good. There can be no doubt that this will put us, or the project will put us streets ahead. I thought you were going to laugh, Kitty. You said you'd laugh at all these witticisms. So put us streets ahead of competitor destinations. So that's all very good, and we'll give a sense of direction. And of course, we'll pose the question about what are our next steps. I promise that's going to be the end of the plans now. Moving on to the trail itself. It's a remarkable project, as we all know, because you've got the brochures in front of you. 46 places of interest and 18 plaques. It's a welcome addition to existing trails that are here. I think Fishguard has a bit of a reputation for having a number of trails. The Art Trail opened in 2024, the Woodland Trail, of course, the Film Location Trail. I think what makes this distinctly different is the use of plaques. And those blue plaques, Richard is the great historian here, first appeared in London in the 1850s, and many towns and cities have taken plaques to develop trails throughout the United Kingdom, and it's nice to see the plaques here. So those blue plaques we're all aware of. Other cities and towns throughout the United Kingdom have taken their own colours. In Cardiff we can see purple plaques denoting contribution made by women. Here, I've noticed on my road test, I promised and said no puns, but I slipped one in there. When I went out, I noticed red and blue. I'm not quite sure whether that reflected political affiliation, but after Billy's astounding win last week, I think we should repaint them green. But it's good that we have those, and I thoroughly enjoyed going out there and learning a lot about our community. And it's that sense of imagination that these plaques generate. It's, the information in itself is highly interesting. I didn't know a lot of the information that I was watching, that I looked at. I didn't know about Willie Thomas, that great rugby player who Wales could probably do with right now, who lived in the town, Bulldog Garman. Fascinating chap. It's that human side of storytelling. Tourism is all about storytelling. It's that human side of things that came through really strongly. That he was a world-famous wrestler, selling out Madison Square Garden, actually doing bouts in Sing Sing, that renowned penitentiary in New York, but ended up in Dracoon, working there. Something derogatory about ending up in Dracoon, but what an interesting life story that individual had. Well, what were those people thinking just before that grand wedding that Richard was talking about, when Emmeline Pankhurst came to talk in the square here in 1908? What did the residents think in hearing that? What was that level of emotion like in the River Gwyn, where 95 baptisms took place in one day back in the 1905 revival. So I think it sparks off a huge amount of imagination, and there's an awful lot to learn there, not just for the visitor, but for people like myself, who've been a resident here and I've lived in North Pembrokeshire for many, many years. So that's all good. In tourism, we often talk about getting onto my theory, I'm much more comfortable talking about this sort of thing. Now, we talk about the tourism product mix. We talk about all those products that are key to making a good visitor experience. And by that, I mean things like accommodation, things like food and drink, things like retail offer, attractions, activities, all those things that are absolutely central for a destination to have. And the great thing about this particular trail is that it's the thread that joins them all together. So that's going to be really helpful to the visitor. It's going to be really helpful to the visitors. It's going to be really helpful to the businesses, because those visitors will obviously find it, they will have an orientation, but there will be an opportunity to create economic impacts within the town. So I'm really pleased that the trail is able to do that and do it really well. And feel the literature and the digital stuff is really explicit and really, really helpful. The trail delivers really well, I think, on the tangible elements of tourism. It's an accessible trail, so it's inclusive, so anyone can get around it. I walked it, I spotted David at the back there. David was out walking the town. It's pouring with rain, wasn't it? And we were both getting soaked, so it's a wet weather attraction, and that's the holy grail of tourism, that we need to have something to go out to with wet weather. So that's good. It's an all year round attraction, and we're always trying to get people to visit outside of the high seasons. It's actually free. It's only cost of living prices. What better thing than that? It's easily navigable, and Pembrokeshire has made a real big thing. I used to be vice chair of Pembrokeshire Tourism and was involved in the early days in trying to make this a dog-friendly county, which has really taken off terribly well. So all those elements together make this trail a pretty cool thing, to have. It's not just the tangible things, so it's the intangible things which are important. Billy touched on the sense of pride, and this trail will give a huge sense of pride to people in the town, in Fishguard, in Goodwick, and that's good. And we need that. Destination success is often based on personal pride. I'm often reminded when I'm in Port Talbot how much pride those residents have. It's a very proud place to live because of the conveyor belt of drama and film stars that have come out of that particular area. They've launched the Burton Trail, talking about walking trails, last year, and that's gone extremely well. So that sense of pride is really important. It's a tangible outcome. It's going to deliver this trail social benefits, which are very important. I'm sorry to pick on you, David, but it did spark off a conversation. And as I was walking around in the rain, looking at the plaques, a couple of people said, "Oh, have you seen that?" And I was like, "Yeah, great. It's really, really good." So it was actually a bit of an icebreaker, and it really is going to be a big conversation piece amongst visitors who are in the town, and that's going to be good. And it's also good for health and well-being, and I think that needs to be flagged up. As Shakespeare wrote in The Tempest, I'll take a turn or two, I'll go and walk to quieten, to still my beating mind. Or as Michael Rosen put it, excuse me for, I hate reading notes, so I'll have to read what Michael Rosen did if you're familiar with his walking poem. But I think he encapsulates the essence of walking and the health benefit that you get from that. Every day as I walk, I think. Every day as I walk, I dream. Every day as I walk, I imagine. Every day as I walk, I wonder. Every day as I walk, I think. So there's that whole thing about walking is really good for our mental health, and so really pleased to see that we have tangible and intangible benefits emerging from seemingly just what is an ordinary heritage trail. Visit Britain has recently published a report on the economic the economic impact of tourism in the United Kingdom. It talks specifically about rural and coastal areas, and it talks about these types of projects that are absolutely needed to develop tourism in these types of areas. And that's really pleasing to see that you've all created a product that is chiming with national policy. So huge hats off for achieving that. So great work to be done there. I've had a lot of experience, and looking at me and seeing how old I am, you're thinking, well, you have been in the industry. I've been in the industry all my life, and I've been involved in the academic world and in the industry and doing consultancy and everything else. And it's really great to have product launches, but we all have, like today, it's wonderful. Jill there with all her hospitality offer and everyone meeting, and it's a great ceremony, and everyone really enjoys it. The product gets launched, it's absolutely fantastic. One of the great weaknesses with product launches is that we don't measure what we do. So I'm sort of throwing a gauntlet down really to the chamber to say maybe this is an opportunity. I know when I was just doing a little bit of research to talk about for this talk, for the few words I'm just saying this afternoon, I was struck by the lack of data about walking trails in towns and cities. And that's a real shame that we don't have that data. So it's a real opportunity, possibly. I'm looking at Jeremy here. He's obviously going to pick this up and run with it, I'm absolutely sure. He's always looking for things like that to do. But it may make a real contribution to the whole tourism community in Wales and wider afield. Perhaps bring a really positive sort of spotlight on the community here if we can sort of do something with that. So that's good. It's really good to see this product being launched during the year of Croeso, which is underpinned by the oil strapline, which is part of, as probably many of you know, part of what Visit Wales are trying to do. And I think people will have that sense of joy as they experience walking around this area and enjoying the product. So that kind of brings me to the end, because I think I was given 10 minutes. I think I probably used that up. It's a wonderful thing to be able to remember our history through a trail like this, but it's an opportunity, I think, to experience and to enjoy and to cherish the history and heritage of our area. So for all those reasons, as I would say in the House of Commons, I commend it to you, and would like to say thank you very much for listening to me. Thank you very much.
Can I ask you to do the unveiling?
I will.
Plaques that, as Andrew pointed out, not in situ yet, there will be revealed as being made. So Billy and Billy, if you would, wait for a photo opportunity. It's funded in part by the Town Council. Am I correct in saying that, Jeremy? So thank you, Fishguard and Town Council for allowing us to do that. And then secondly, I'm not sure if there are anybody here, but the locations of the plaques were all sponsored by where they were located. So are there any businesses here who own plaques? Can I ask you to come up and sort of take receive your certificate to that fact? Come on over, if you would, please. And maybe, Billy, if you would... yes. Sorry. Sorry, forgive me. Where are you from?
I'm the Globe.
The Globe? Indeed. You are. And again, the photo opportunity.
Well, that one.
And then Ethan, Evans and Morris as well. And then Jim has the laptop, the tablet there, if you wanted to just have a quick look at that and enjoy that as a method of viewing the content. Oh, there is, thank you very much. On the leaflet. Oh, right, okay. Where is it? On the inside? Yes, indeed. So that will take you through to the digital version on the website. And that's it. We did ponder about going outside and looking at actually Eaton, Morris and Evans plaque on the wall there. Given the conditions of the weather, I think it's probably best not to do that. But please do have another cup of tea. Thank you very much also to, I nearly forgot, I wasn't going to in the end, to Rena and Brianna and Jill. And anything else to add?
We've got 5,000 leaflets. People want to
Right, 5,000 leaflets, so please feel free to take a, but they will be around the town as soon as we get the opportunity to do. Thank you very much all for coming. Thank you.